Friday. What day? Today, May the 3rd, 2024. And we're going to be talking about the month 5 Pick a Petal block of the month for the Quilt Show. I just looked on the chat to see, before we came live, to see if anyone was there, because 2 minutes ago no one was there. And yes, there were several people there, including someone from Portugal, which is really exciting. I saw New Hampshire and Arizona, and I will go back there before we finish this morning and look for your questions. So that's a good place to put questions, and I'll go back and look. So I know there are at least a few of you out there, which is really great, and I'm glad to see you. We'll give it a few minutes as people come on. I just have several things to talk about, one of which, and I'm going to start with this, and it's a little bit of shameless self-promotion, so just bear with me for a second. This happened last week. This is Woman's World magazine, which is one of those supermarket magazines that are out there. I say it's not the one with the alien babies. It's the one with the nutrition and fitness and health and beauty and those kind of things. But this big yellow box right there and that woman in the jeans and the red blouse, that's me. And I didn't know I was going to be on the cover. They sent me 3 copies of the magazine a couple of weeks ago for my own to have. And that was not on the cover. It was just all Linda Carter there, Wonder Woman. So my husband had sent me pictures. I was traveling, and that's what I thought it looked like. So this was a photo shoot that I had done. I had written that on Facebook and Instagram, but I couldn't tell people why it had happened. And so anyway, this article, and when we go to share my screen, I'll pull it up again and show you. You can. The magazine is dated April 29th, which would be this week. But as these magazines happen, they get actually posted for sale the week before. So I think if you're looking for this particular issue now, you may not find it. I did find a few stores that had the current issue and the week before, if they had any of those. So you might. But the entire article, it's called Battle of the Diet Winners. And it talks, it's the story of how I lost 110 pounds. And it's also a lot of nutrition information. There are several doctors who are mentioned. The book that I particularly like and found helpful is mentioned in there. So the entire article is online at the Woman's World magazine website. Just simply go to their weight loss section and scroll down and you'll see it. So it was interesting that it happened last week. So for the last 2 weeks, I was on what I call my Texas Tour 24. I went to 2 guilds in Texas, Beaumont and Victoria, and had 5 days off in between that I spent in Austin with friends, and I had a wonderful time. I love Texas. My blog that comes up this Sunday will be about the teaching jobs, the 2, Victoria and Beaumont. And the one that's the following Sunday, May the 12th, will be the story of my week in Austin, the 5 days, and how wonderful it was and all the fun things that I did. So if you're from Texas and your guild wants to bring me there, contact me because I want to go to Texas always. Anyway, so, but I didn't expect anything with this magazine last week because I thought it was all going to happen this week. So it was pretty surprising when the day after I left, my husband says, "Oh, we got something in the mail. You got something from New York City. Do you want me to open it?" And I said, "Sure." And I saw the 3 copies of the magazine. So I knew it was out. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I better tell people because by the time I get home, the magazines won't be available anymore. So I did that, and the guilds went crazy about it. A lot of people went trying to find them. I signed a lot of copies of the issue and everything. And anyway, so it is a good article, not just the part about me, but the part, when you get interviewed for articles, you might not know, they start with quotes, and I did get a chance to fact check the article. And the first quote was something I hadn't said. But it was true, so I was able to let that stand. But there were a few things in there I asked them to change, and they did. So, but there's a lot of good information, as I said, also on nutrition and exercise and things like that. So, okay, so that gets us going here onto block of the month. So I'm going to get my magazine out of the way and look at the things that I want to tell you. Okay, the other thing about traveling to teach, I'm just going to mention it now. I am teaching on an Alaskan cruise with Stitch in Heaven this August, and there are still a few spots available. And then next year in 25, I'm doing a New England and Canada trip, followed immediately thereafter by a 5-day Bermuda trip. So if you want to take a short cruise, that would be great. You can do that. All of those are on Stitch in Heaven. It's fun to me when I go to these guilds and all of a sudden I see people come up to me and they've followed me. Now, this is the 8th year that I have done Block of the Month for the Quilt Show. So there's been a lot of people who they right off the bat that they know me, and a lot of them, some are asking when they can travel and take classes with me. So anyway, they're out there. Okay, it is time to start applique. Months 5 through 10 in the block of the month this year are spent doing the applique and embroidery embellishments. So we've got a good bit of time to work on all of these different things over the next 5 months. And I have mine on the wall, of course, behind me. The middle is sewn together. The 4 log cabin borders are not sewn to the middle yet. They are just on the located there on my board. The bottom one is sitting here in front of me. I'm going to show it to you in a minute. But they're just up there so that I can see them. I do have the remaining blocks made, and I still have to finish up some more of the fan blocks for the outside, but then all of the parts will be done. I'm going to recommend that as you are working on these log cabin blocks, that you use a photo of the quilt to help you get just for color placement and things like that, and see where the blocks go and how they go with Jen's pattern, Jen Kingwell. So the cover of my book is the page that came with the kit. And what I want to show you is that this photo of the quilt appears several places on our website, and maybe you've saved it yourself. But one of the things that I noticed just the other day, this week, I thought about this and I went, excuse me, this is a square quilt. And there isn't a picture of it hanging in the studio when Jen did the show. I just went back this morning and looked at the show again. And it's on the table in front of her and Alex, but it's not up on the wall. So the orientation of the quilt depends on the photo that you're looking at. So I decided that I was going to use the photo on the cover of my book, the one that came in the kit, to help me decide where the placement was. So in other words, this is my top and this is my bottom. Okay? And that's what I did. When we get to into share my screen, I'm going to show you some other pictures. If you switch around different pictures of the quilt, you could easily get really confused. Okay? At least I could. So, okay. Let's go to the document camera so I can show you what all we've got here. Okay, cool. All right. So this is my bottom row, and I know that because when I put these borders together, I labeled each one, top row, bottom row, left side, right side. So this one says bottom row. And this is what I've gotten done so far. Because I was going to Texas and I was going to have some time where I could do some hand applique, I did the part I wanted to do by machine before I left, and then the part that I wanted to do by hand I took with me. So this is, for example, the stems, I did all of them by machine. I turned them under, and first I prepped a whole lot of stems. And I want to refer you again to my blog. My blog for month 5 came out this past Sunday, the very end of April. I always try to be ahead of the first day of the month so you don't, those of you who jump ahead will at least benefit from what the information that I had. But I have all of these things that I'm telling you today, I have in detail on the blog, and there are links to other sites and things like that. But I made a variety of stems so that I would have them ready to go when it was time to start playing with the colors. So this one, obviously, you see I used a purple and pink stripe. Here's the blue and the little pink dots, and just different kinds of things. This is a pretty, get this under them. This is a pretty batik. It's not in the kit, but it's a pretty little green that I liked. And I just made those up. I find the easiest way for me to make stems is I simply cut them 3 times the width I want. Most of these are about 3/8 of an inch finished. And then I would fold them in thirds. This one you could see, this is not fully in thirds. This is narrow here on the inside. And then this one comes out where it's not that big. And it would give me a width of that width. But if I wanted it narrower than that, I could simply move this one in, as I did on a few of these that are narrower. Just fold it in narrower and bring this one over, and now it's a narrower stem. These are bias. I cut them on the 45-degree angle for the bias. So that's what I did for my stems. And the pieces that were easy to machine applique, for example, the stems and these rectangles. There are several little squares and rectangles. Here's a square one too. This is a good picture. Here's the square. Very easy to do. I've turned it under using the template plastic, the Mylar template plastic. And those are these little guys that we got if you got the kit, all of these. There were 2 packages of these. And I had to actually just I dumped one package out first to find the shapes I wanted. There didn't seem to be to me any real rhyme or reason as to how they were packaged. So I would find the shapes that I needed. And then for each month, what I did was I made a little, under the camera, made a little sandwich bag here. And this just says month 5, applique border number 1, bottom. So month 5 is the first applique border we're doing. And as I use the different shapes that were on, that you see here, I put them in this little baggie. That would make a lot of sense if I was ever going to make another one of these exactly the same. The chances of that are slim. But at least when I need to find them again, I knew right where they were. And I stored this in my book under month 5. And I did that for all of the borders as I was working on them. But it was easy for me to turn this square under, and then I machine appliqued it just the same way that I machine appliqued the stems down. The color thread that I used is this Quilter Select 80 weight. It's very fine thread. And I use this color 275. I like this a lot. It's really bright and just a cheerful green. It worked just fine on the stems and on you can hardly see. We have to be really close for me to even notice that that's a green. But there are lots of different patterns, stitches that you can use. And I had my little cheat sheet. I probably dropped it on the floor when I was just a minute ago when I was rearranging these things. But once you decide which stitch you want to use, write down your settings. I've written about mine in my blog, so it's all there. I used a buttonhole stitch. It's a narrow little buttonhole stitch. I actually used the stitch that Alex describes, and I have a link on my blog to an excellent video that Alex did when she did her neutral blooms class, well, probably more than a year ago. Really good if you want to see how, because she is able to have good camera angles and she takes you step by step through her stitching process. So this block here, this entire little block, including the round circle, I used a big template plastic to make the circles. And then I prepped the entire thing and I machine appliqued this entire piece. This one, I machine appliqued the stem, and then I hand appliqued this shape and the 3 little circles, which I made with the plastic templates that are Templar templates, and the same thing with the 3 leaves. So this was machine done, but the rest was hand applique on my trip while I was away. So these were another one. This one here, hand applique the leaves, but the machine is stem applique. I have one more little shape to go. And I had this with me, and I didn't like that dark green in there, or dark purple, compared to the more fuchsia color. So I thought, well, when I get home, I'll find a different one. And so I found this one. So what I want to show you here is the beauty of using a sand board. This is the Jen Kingwell sandpaper board. It's available. It's a very inexpensive tool, and it's available at the shop, the Quilt Show's shop. I mentioned this on the forum a month ago when I first realized when these became available, and I got mine in the mail. And then I realized that you're going to want one of these if you're new to applique or don't have any kind of a sandpaper board. So here just shows you the process that I used. Okay, so here's that new purple that I'm going to use. And it's hard to pick these up off. There we go. All right. So I checked with the book as to see which way did this little Mylar template go. And that's how it goes in this way. I'm marking this one on the front side. You can mark it on the front side or the back side. If you're going to do needle turn, you're going to mark it on the front side. If you're going to turn it under with an iron and just do it for machine applique, it makes sense to mark it on the wrong side. I use a marker that I can see. So my go-to marker always is just a plain old mechanical pencil if I can see the line. I couldn't see the line very well with this lead on this purple, so I needed to go to something a little darker. And this is a Micron, Pigma Micron pen, an 05 size. This one happens to be black. And I just laid this on top of the little piece of fabric. And then the sandpaper holds it in place. And I just drew my pencil line, my line, and came across there. And I did it on all 4 sides, all 4 sides. And now this is permanent ink, so you want to be aware of that. You want an ink that doesn't bleed. So just any old marker won't necessarily do. But now I can see it well enough that then I'm going to trim it 1/4 of an inch away or so then I can turn the edges under. but a sandpaper board can help you very, very much. And this one by Jen Kingwell, of course, as I said, that's available in the Quilt Show store, is a really great purchase and one that you will use for all kinds of applique. So then I was getting ready this morning to prep for that last border, the one that's on the wall behind me. My top border isn't finished yet. And so here are some other shapes that I wanted to show you. Here's the circles. And this is a circle that I did with the Mylar template that came inside of the kit packet. But they're also Karen K. Buckley's Perfect Circles. This size circle is available. Karen K. Buckley also has perfect ovals and perfect leaves. Here's a leaf. So you may already have those Mylar templates that are the shapes that you need for some of these shapes. Some of them are unusual and you wouldn't have them if you didn't have the Mylar template. You can always make a substitute template out of freezer paper that's, it's not going to hold up to a lot of use, but you only have to use it a short while. The oval is simply an elongated circle. So I prepped this circle, this oval, the same way that I prepped the circle. I use quilting thread because it's nice and strong and I'm not inclined to break it when I'm pulling it. And little tiny running stitches. Don't think of them as basting stitches because the tendency then is to make too big of a stitch, but you want tiny little stitches so that when you gather it up, you get a nicely turned smooth edge. So this is a circle that's going to go on my final border, the top one that I haven't started yet. And then here's an oval that's also going to go on there. Same kind of thing. And like I said, I used quilting thread because I have plenty of it and it's nice and strong. And again, little narrow, short little running stitches. And all I have to do, and then I did spray with a little bit of starch or sizing or best press, whichever you like to use, on the seam allowance, hit it real well with the iron. And now I'll be able to take the shape out. And I just open it up just enough and pull this cute little guy out of there. And then you snug him back again without distorting him too much until it's the way you want it to be. And now it's ready to go. So if I wanted to machine applique this, let's say that this is going to be the piece that goes on here, I could just do my stem by machine and go right around the oval as well by machine because the edge is already turned. I do like some hand applique, so I'm going to do that. I will probably stitch this one down by hand, but the stem will be done by machine. And then there's leaves, and these happen to be cute little leaves. What I did with this is I pressed this under with the iron, hit it with a little bit of starch, and these will probably be hand appliqued down as well. And they're going to be the leaves that are associated with this particular flower. So those are some of the basics for applique. I prefer a turned edge for a quilt, particularly a quilt that you want to have for a long time and keep and be able to not worry about the edges being frayed. Faster would be raw edge applique, and you certainly could do that with each of these shapes. Cut them out without a seam allowance, and then you just want to stitch really significant stitching, either satin stitch or a very close buttonhole stitch, something that's really going to protect the edges. Maybe a heavier weight thread. Instead of the 80 weight, use a 60 weight or a 50 weight. You can even probably use a 40 weight in your sewing machine. That's a good quilting size weight thread, and that would help again to secure the edges if you want to use raw edge applique. So there are lots of ways to do this. I was asked by someone, is it possible to combine hand piecing and machine piecing? Yes. Is it possible to combine hand applique and machine applique? Yes. It's your quilt. You get to decide. If you do the technique well that you want to do, no one should be able to tell the difference. And it's just, you have to decide how fast you want something done or how slow you want something done. The thread that I like to use for hand applique is this Quilter Select pre-wound bobbins. These are 80 weight, so it's the same weight as the spool that I have used. These are every color that I could possibly ever need. They're just everything. Every thread in here will go with everything I own, absolutely. So that's a thread, this kit that I use and will continue to use because I just love it. So let me see what else I wanted to tell you about applique. discuss for I do like needle. Okay, needle time. The other thing I wanted to mention is about securing these things. So let me bring this one up again. All right. So you can imagine if you've got this piece and somewhere, that little one that I showed you, I traced around, now I have to cut out. But you're holding all of this in your hand, and if you're using pins, two things can happen. You stab yourself and then you get blood on it, and I'm here to tell you the blood will not land on the leaf, it's going to land on the white part. So that's a problem. And the thread gets, if you're doing hand applique, the thread gets caught around it. If you're doing machine applique, you've got the pin probably in the wrong place for where the needle needs to be when you're sewing with the machine. So a really handy little trick is to use little tiny dots of glue. And this is Sue Garman taught us this. There are 2 shows that Sue was the guest artist for, and you can still watch those 2 shows, and she will teach you a lot that you may be able to learn from that. But what she showed is the amount of glue she's talking about when she glue based her little shapes onto the background that she can then transport with her and keep it going. And I did that with these pieces that I took with me to Texas. And the amount of glue that she's talking about, the dot of glue, that's a big dot. Okay, that one is big. She would go more like, first one was better. Now he's smeared. All right, teeny. So very small. And you just put it in the middle so that it's not around the seam allowances. These pieces are pretty small. So I would be putting the dot of glue right about in the middle right there, just away from the seam allowances, just to hold it there and get that out of the way. So I do like this glue based it quite a bit, and that applicator seem I have better luck with that than these applicators. And I love this little needle nose thing, but I get it stuck all the time. I spent a good bit of time the other day trying to get this cleaned out, which I did do, but then it's still hard for me to get the little tiny dot of glue out. And another glue that I've recently been taught about is Elmer's washable clear glue. It's the old Elmer's that we know and love, school glue. You want to make sure it's washable. You don't want permanent glue. And the same thing with this cute little roundy top. You can open it up and you can give yourself just the tiniest little dot of, well, she thinks she can, but, well, you get the idea. All right, a little bit washable clear glue. So in school departments, store sections, all over. So those are just some ideas for ways that you can help, you can master your quilting, your applique. So here's how I traveled with this thing. These are 2 shapes that have to be hand appliqued down. The bottom one is in place, and now tonight I'm going to add this one on top. And then the circle is already made, so once these 2 are on top of each other, then the circle goes there in the middle. And then there are the 3 little leaves, and they'll get placed along the stem wherever I decide they're going to go. So that was how I just transported it with me. And then when I was ready to sit down and visit with friends and do the hand applique, I would just cut each individual piece. Here is the pear. This stem has already been machine appliqued in place. The pear is cut out, it's trimmed, it's ready to go. And when I'm ready to stitch it, I can simply put a dot of glue on there and pull that pin out of there and I'm ready to go. Here's another little shape that actually goes over these 2 borders. I didn't do myself any favors by changing the border layout. Jen had the top and bottom borders be the short ones with 4 squares, 4 log cabins each, and the long ones being the right and left side. And I don't do it that way. I should have done it that way just because it would have made it much easier for me to follow her directions each month of which blocks went where. So I recommend you just do what she says, the 4 log cabins for the top border, 4 for the bottom border, and then the left and right side would each have 6. It really will simplify your life. I'm here to tell you that for true. So, okay, let me go to share my screen now. And go in there. Good. Let's see. Okay. Oh, good. There we are. Cool, cool, cool. All right. So when we go to the quilt show, and I'm logged in here, I mentioned a lot of places where you can find things in the quilt show. We have almost 500 shows. We have 15 or more years of shows. This search button here is type your search here. And so if you typed applique, a whole bunch of things will pop up. We have many classes on applique. You could type hand applique. You could type machine applique. Masterclass applique. We have 2 of those, which took the meatiest part of multiple classes shows and puts them all together into one show. So there are a lot of great ways that you can find things right there. Another thing I showed last week was about seeing the quilts. And here's where I want to show you again what I'm talking about with the photographs of Petal, so you can see. I'm logged in, so these are where I go to save, see quilts, and then I had saved some. So, and I showed you last month how to do that, to save them, make sure you're logged in. And I go down here, here's Petal. So let me pull this up and show you. Okay, so here is this picture of the quilt, all right? And what I want you to take notice of is this aqua purple block. In this photo, when you're looking at this photo, this is on the left as we look at it. But in the cover of my book, it's down here. It's on the bottom row. And that's why I was talking about the placement of all of these appliques around the log cabin block. If sometimes you look at this picture, and sometimes you look at the one I have on the cover of my book, or sometimes you look at photos that you've seen inside the quilt, so like here, where you're just seeing pictures, you can't tell. See how this one goes in, and this one comes from the bottom up, and this one goes, well, from the bottom up, and this one comes from the top down. I was trying to place them as close to how Jen had them so that I could have room for all this embellishment, which is going to start 2 months from now. So that's what I wanted to tell you about when you're looking at a photo of the quilt. It is a square quilt, and we don't have any way to know definitively what is the top of the quilt and what is the bottom of the quilt. Pick one picture for this purpose, for the deciding about the appliques, and stick with that picture, or you will find yourself very confused. I'm here to tell you. On my blog is this is the current month's one that came up last Sunday. I always release my blogs on Sunday unless I have to do a special one, and I did a special one about the Woman's World magazine because, like I said, if I'd waited till I got home to do it, it would have been after the fact. Nobody would have found it. But here's the one from last Sunday. Pick a Petal. Here's the pictures that I put up. There's my design wall. Here's my supplies. And then here I did find some videos for you to look at. This is Jen Kingwell showing how to make hand applique circles with her Mylar templates. This is a woman named Margaret Mew, and she demonstrates how to use those very similar Mylar templates like we're using. And so that's real good information for you too if you're familiar with that. The sandpaper board, there's pictures. And then the link to Alex's videos is in here too, right there. Alex Anderson Machine Applique. I always, when I find something helpful for you, I put it out there and I make sure that you can find it easily. So that's where that information is. Okay, tiny dots of glue. I showed you how to do that. Okay, let's go to, since I'm here and we're doing well time, good. So I thought all right, now I want to go back to, go back. Okay, back laptop webcam. Yes, okay, I'm back, and now I'm going to look at your comments there. And so let me do that real quickly too. All right, so you see me reading in just a minute. All right, okay. All right, let's see what people have said. All right. All righty. New Hampshire. I always love seeing where people are from. Algarve, Portugal, Florida, Arizona, Massachusetts, Ohio, Pennsylvania. I was born in Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Washington, Tennessee. All right. Montana. The question is, are we only doing one side of applique this month? Yes, this month it is one border. And for me, I determined that it was the bottom row, again, because of which photo of the quilt I was using. So that's what I did there. Southern California, San Antonio. Oh, San Antonio, Melanie, I'd come down there anytime. Hey, Terry, yes, I did get a lovely note from the editor that said, Yeah, we're thrilled with you as our newest cover girl, and that was kind of cute. Okay, applique tools. John's putting up a lot of great information. The thread donut, the applique tools. If you don't have the applique tools, they are very helpful. They're like 2 extra hands to help you turn the edges under. I use them all the time, and I really should have showed you that as well. So John's putting them up there. That's great. Yes, turn down the heat. Michelle says those Mylar templates are heat resistant. They are not heat proof, and they will work with high heat. She says, don't ask me how I know. Of course, we've all worked them. You don't want to melt the plastic on your iron. So start with a medium heat and then decide if that's strong enough to get your job done. And there's that one. Okay, someone says she's having trouble downloading the pattern. Print and Fuse Light. That I like that product a lot. That this Terry, my good friend in Florida, who I met when I was teaching down at her guild, Print and Fuse Light. She glues it and then turns under the edges. It washes out. It's very, very fast, and I've used that for many of our previous projects. So Oakland, Tennessee. So, okay, that's good. I do go back later and look at other questions, particularly on the Quilt Show website. Sometimes I can't see them on YouTube, but sometimes I can. And I always answer all the questions on the forum, so that is always a great place for you to look. I want to do one more thing, and then we're going to be able to wrap up. I'm going to share my screen again because I want to show you here. Okay, well, let's see if I can remember where that's at. Yeah, okay, get out of there. Okay. So in Beaumont last week, 2 weeks ago, I always love show and tell because when I'm there, almost always there's at least a couple of block of the months that were shown to me. So here is Sylvia from Beaumont. This is her pick a petal. It is done. It is the current year's block of the month. You can see it was inspired by Pick a Petal. It is not true to Pick a Petal. It is her version of Pick a Petal. And I thought it was amazing and wonderful and just allowed her to really do what she wanted to do and call the quilt her own. So that is Sylvia's Pick a Petal. And then because she showed Homeward Bound, I wanted to show you that as well. And so here's her Homeward Bound. Again, inspired by last year's block of the month, Homeward Bound. But you see, there's no houses down here. She eliminated all those cabins. She put some delectable mountain pieces here. Only a few stars, 1 star in each corner, not many of them. She made it her own. The middle is pretty much true too. But then she got to the outside and said, no, I want to do my own thing. So I thought that was amazing and really great to see. And then, of course, she had Garden Party Down Under. And so here is Garden Party Down Under. And this one is just spectacular too. Again, inspired by, notice there are no sawtooth borders in here. She uses really fun big check instead of putting sawtooth borders in here. No diamond borders, absolutely no diamond borders. So you know she had a much faster way to get her borders done than the way the pattern did. It's a wonderful quilt and it's very much her own. So I encourage you to feel free to make the quilt your own, so that you can say that this is my own quilt. If you want to make it exactly like the designer said and match the fabrics as close as possible, well, that's great. But you don't have to. It's your quilt. You get to decide. So that's just a really kind of a fun thing to do. Let me see. Okay, I showed you Sylvia's pictures and how to search for the box. Okay. I did have the Woman's World magazine up. It's the link. It's to go to womansworldmagazine.com. Check under the weight loss part. If you want to read the article, if you can't find it in stores and you just want to read the article, that's perfectly fine. If you have no interest in it, that's fine too. When I talk to people at these guilds, and it gets mentioned a lot of times, and then I'll say, if you've always been thin, you'll never understand the struggle. So, but for most of us who understand the struggle, maybe you'll find something in there that's helpful. So, okay. We have so many resources for you on the Quilt Show. I hope that you'll take advantage by looking back at some of the other shows. As I said, use that search box to find all kinds of great information that are there. That's part of your membership. As a star member, you have access to all of that great stuff. Remember that Jen's show is free this year, all year long. So even if you have friends that aren't members, they can watch it as well from home. They don't have to do anything special. You go to free shows and they can watch it. Before we do 2 months from now, when we start the embellishment, I will strongly encourage you to watch the show again, because there's an entire segment where Jen demonstrates her technique for doing the hand embellishment. Those patterns will start to be revealed on the month 7. So month 6 is the next border, and I think it's this side over here, this one for me. I've got my bottom one, and I'm going to finish this up probably this weekend, and I'm also going to get the top border. You see, there's nothing on that top border yet. Well, there's one on the corner. I've started making all of those pieces like I showed you today. This little piece, and the stems are ready to go. So I'm going to spend this afternoon getting that all prepped together, because once it's prepped, then it's my evening sit in the living room with my husband pretending to watch television as I actually stitch instead. So. Okay, next month we are scheduled to be live on Friday, June the 7th, noon Central Time. My blog will come out on, well, I will release it May 31st, which is Friday. June the 1st is my birthday. And I always say that the best birthdays end in a 9 and the worst birthdays end in a 0. Yeah, this is one of those bad ones. But I'm feeling pretty good about this one. So I'm looking forward to this one, as a matter of fact. Anyway, so May 31st, you can look for the blog that I'll have up, which will address month 6, block of the month, pick a petal, and the appliques that we're going to do on that next border. So until we meet again, that's a wrap.